What a fucking day. And it's only like almost 9 o'clock. So today spells the end of an era, spells the end of Jive as we know it. So in the last few months we've had to make certain decisions, and that's to not proceed with certain projects in light of the COVID situation, the financial situation, the fact that the world is changing and people's habits are changing. So that's not been easy. So we've done that reluctantly, which is pull the plug on certain parts of our longer term growth plan. Some things where we'd had irons in the fire for a couple of years. And as I say, we had to make those decisions. It was difficult, and we streamlined. Then we had a further knock-on decision, if you like. So myself and business partner Will Bailey, we had different viewpoints on how things should proceed. I was of the opinion that certainly in the property business that we need to not do the same kind of business we had been doing, because the model was no longer suitable for the risky environment as I seen it, as I believed it. And everybody's got arguments for or against, but my view was, if it wasn't something I would put my money into any longer, I couldn't really justify pushing it any further and onboarding new clients. So while we were looking through pivot options for that, and obviously making sure we took care of our existing clients, myself and Will had, a professional variation of viewpoints that couldn't be reconciled. And I decided, given that he wanted to pursue the business, it was only right that I pull away. So we did a deal to reassign various parts of our companies. So Will took over, he actually took over as managing director of Jive Property in March of this year. And then shortly afterwards, I think maybe a couple of months after that, we finalised the deal, and Will took 100% of all the shares and the assets and stuff in Jive Property. Which meant that obviously he would proceed building portfolios, but he was obviously of the impression that he could do it safely, perhaps even change the model that we'd had. It's not that the model didn't work, I just felt that the risk level became too high for me to put my name on, and as such I pulled the plug on selling those products in that business, and that's where the rub lied. So anyway, Will took over complete control and ownership of Jive Property. I obviously did my very best to support him and give him a good outcome, to make sure that we keep the name good quality and high, because I still have other Jive businesses. And I guess a couple of days after I'd signed the paperwork, Will told me he was liquidating the company, Jive Property, and almost immediately selling portfolio builds as Will Bailey Property, in a very, very similar fashion to what we had done. And I guess there must be a reason for the reinvention and dumping all of the existing company history and heritage and credibility. And it seems that obviously Will has taken certain digital assets that he thinks is going to be of benefit to his now new proposition as a portfolio consultant in his own right. And unfortunately he's liquidated Jive Property, I don't think there is, you know, a massive amount of kind of debt or negativity or anything around it. I think it was a decision that, you know, he felt was right. I just wish that, given that he did it, I don't know, probably 24 hours after I'd finally signed the paperwork with him, that he perhaps had a conversation with me, because it's quite clear that he had intended to do something like that. And obviously I did my level best to make sure there was as much cash flow, assets and opportunity in Jive Property, you know, to balance out any kind of liabilities we had. So it's a little bit disappointing, but, you know, in business you kind of come across these things. I guess there's a couple of lessons there. Obviously Jive, even as an individual portfolio before that, I traded as Jive, as a lot of you guys will know, when I was doing my sole trade portfolio build. And so it's a little bit of a shame that it feels like Jive Property is getting closed with a bit of negativity. We had a couple of bad reviews. Now, they weren't, to my knowledge, although one of them may have been, bad reviews from clients. They were kind of largely instigated by an ex-employee. You know, everyone was coming up with random and spurious kind of bullshit names. It made absolutely no sense. But of course, everybody does business based on reputation. So my advice to Will was that, you know, if there's a couple of bad reviews, then if any of them are genuine, then A, sort them. And if they're not, then we obviously take the corrective action. And if the companies still don't resolve them or kind of show the genuine credibility behind the reviews, then we just take legal action, because they're all registered to IP addresses, email addresses, all that kind of stuff. And for some reason, and now I understand why, for some reason Will decided not to pursue fixing any of that negativity, and so we acquired new Jive Group offices, of which Will was going to trade from downstairs with his company Jive Property. But almost the very next day after we'd done the deal, Will said, as Jive Property is no longer trading, unfortunately that £12,000 in rent I will no longer be paying you. So that was one of many kind of bridges that were immediately burnt overnight, that, you know, I wouldn't have entered into a deal if I was immediately going to get stitched up. And the annoying thing is we never fell out, but it just goes to show you don't fully know people. Now, the thing that's even more annoying is he moved registered office to my building, Jive Group, and then he left negative reviews online. Like, he didn't leave them, but he didn't sort them out, and they were reviews not about my companies, but they were about his company, Jive Property. And even though I offered to support him with legal action and any other help I could to get them removed, he didn't ever do that. And the annoying thing is, people just automatically assume my address and Jive is one and the same business. Now, because I have no legal right in that business, I'm not in a position to even challenge the reviews myself. As a result of Will just, you know, liquidating the company and leaving his registered office address at my office, even though it never traded from there, and, you know, there's no rent paid other than like an initial small amount, it's just resulted in a feeling of discomfort and a feeling of not very pleasant, because I feel that now, as a result of, you know, badly managed exit, Jive, for me, not people aren't, you know, there's no kind of public issues, but I feel that Jive has a slightly kind of tainted name about it, and that is kind of upsetting, because as Will knows, we have several other Jive businesses in the group, and as I say, I've already streamlined some of that stuff, and I've decided to put a couple of projects on hold. So as a result, as of today, I have decided to stop trading in any capacity as Jive. So I've got a couple of companies, with different trading names, like, Work Hard, Play Hard, and other things like that have a Jive name, like Jive Ventures or Jive Living or whatever they are. So rather than continue to trade as Jive Group, given that I've had to restructure and remodel anyway, I'm not going to do that. It's frustrating because it feels like rather an extreme measure for something that could have been avoided and probably is not entirely necessary, but mentally it's just really ground me down and pissed me off. And there's a lot of people kind of asking, but what's the real backstory? What's this? What's that? And the reality is, there is no real backstory. We got to a stage where we had a difference of opinion. Will, for his part, he found new love interest abroad and split up with his girlfriend and all this kind of stuff. And we were just on different pages by then. And so it was decided that we were going to do the split, basically. With hindsight, I should have... I don't know, it's difficult. With hindsight, I think I probably should have suspended Will and put a managing director in place of Will being managing director, because I don't think it's done right by anybody in the business, any of our shareholders, stakeholders, partners, clients, by obviously Will taking over and then immediately kind of closing the company, because in the period that he was managing director, if there was anything that made the company unworkable, non-sustainable, then you would have thought in those few months before the deal was made, he would have raised that, made that very clear, documented it in a board meeting and that. It's just all a bit convenient that 24 hours after I signed the paperwork, then Jive Property takes an immediate nosedive. And unfortunately, he hasn't cleaned up the mess. He's literally left the mess for everybody else to clean up. He seems to be sailing on into the sunset, doing his thing. And that's absolutely fine. It's just bloody annoying because I don't go into business kind of with safety nets and with, plan Bs and stuff. I mean, yes, commercially, but not on a business partnership level. When you get to a stage where you trust somebody implicitly, you kind of expect how you would act even in times of extreme pressure or difficulty or something. So I guess it's a lesson learned on my part. I'm not saying Will was right to do what he did or not right to do what he did. What I'm saying is what he's done and how he's done it has had ramifications of which, me and some other people are having to clean up some of this. And also it's had associated ramifications with the whole Jive brand, which is a bit unquantifiable, but it is also unacceptable, to be honest. So lesson learned. I hope Will does I hope he does well in his company, Will Bailey Property. I believe he's looking after our clients, or some of our clients, or whatever, our previous clients, if you like, in Jive Property. As I say, I'm still entirely doing business, and a lot of the things I was doing, I'm just no longer going to be trading as Jive. This whole video, I don't even know where it was going originally, but I feel like I've got some stuff off my chest. As I say, it wasn't any, I've not come out with anything personal or anything, material, if you like, about Will. But I am talking about how the Jive split has eventually came about. I don't see any huge long-term adverse issues for anybody that we've worked with or anything like that. For my part, a lot of the stuff I was doing, consulting projects and stuff, that's still going ahead. Just nice and clean in a couple of individual companies, and not part of Jive Group. And that's it really. So just to say that, you know, not everything all the time has to go on forever. Sometimes you need to know just when to quit. And I think I've decided to quit Jive. The businesses I've got within it that are staying, you know, certainly stand up on their own. Just a bit of a shame really, because I always quite like the old, you know, the Richard Branson, the Virgin thing. I mean, that's not the best example at the minute because he's having to do exactly the bloody same, isn't he? But I always quite liked the fact that you'd build a brand name and then within it you'd have, you know, this category, you'd have sportswear, leisure, construction, technology, all this kind of good stuff. And I guess with all of this stuff that's going on and all of the stresses around it in life, I think we definitely had overstretched and it was time to restructure. But as I say, it's a bit of a shame. Sometimes you have to know when to call it a day. And today is that day. So thank you everybody that supported us. I'm saying this like it's the end of something, but nothing is actually going to change. I just, my consulting, I've continued doing consulting. You know, I've always been Dan England consulting to people, and I'll still be Dan England consulting to people, but I guess we won't invoice through Jive. I'm building out some technology products with other companies, and we'll still be doing that. And yeah, I mean, one thing, I had a company that has been a research project for the last couple of years called Crebl, C-R-E-B-L. I love that name because it sounds like it's how a 2-year-old would say incredible. And so that, for me, Crebl, is going to be my consulting company name. So obviously I remain a consultant, but I will trade inside my existing brand. It's been around a couple of years anyway, but I'll grow that out. I'll trade inside my existing brand, Crebl, and you guys can come and build your business in Crebl. Make your business incredible. See what I did there? Make your business incredible. Well, hope you all have a good day. Apologies if I was driving on the phone. If any police are watching, I definitely wasn't. I've got a very, very small cameraman sitting on my dash. Feels good to get things off your chest.